Featherweight is absolutely on fire. We have a really interesting fight coming at us this weekend between the Moroccan Devil, Youssef Zalal, somebody that MMA fans have come to know and love. And he's only had 3 fights in the UFC, but they've all been really impressive wins. And he's taking on maybe a relative unknown to a lot of MMA fans. You have Georgian transplanted to Spain. That's where he's going to be training out of, Ilia Topuria. And we've seen him with Cage Warriors winning their bantamweight title over Bhullar in a fight where the guy just shot right in for a takedown, gut it. I mean, it was pretty much all Topuria until he put down Bhullar and just put him to sleep in that fight. Looked amazing there. Went from Cage Warriors where, like I said, he weighed 139 pounds for a 135-pound title fight. That's not great, but with Brave, he took on a guy in his debut, got a big win there, and in his last time out against Steven Goncalves, I mean, it was a fight where Goncalves landed a head kick, and then followed him up with a punch, knocked him down. Topuria, we saw him where he has that background in Greco-Roman wrestling and a black belt in jiu-jitsu, able to really capitalize on the ground. I mean, he had him in all sorts of nasty choke positions, his opponent able to get out of them. And then once they got back onto the feet, a dynamite right hand and knocked him out. And it was Goncalves' first time being finished in his career. To that point, he was 6-2. So really, really explosive fighter is Ilia Topuria. I wonder how the gas tank's going to go for him. I mean, so far in his MMA career, I mean, it's been a lot of finishes. It's been a lot of early fights. And we haven't seen him go the distance. He's got the 1 knockout win, 7 wins by submission. And for Youssef Zalal, Matt, I mean, you talk about hype trains in MMA. You've got the Chimaev hype train. You've got some other hype trains. And Youssef Zalal is in the some other hype train category because I don't think a lot of people are sleeping on him. I mean, big win over Austin Lingo in his debut where, you know, the odds were pretty close. A lot of people high on Lingo. Then he comes out and fights Jordan Griffin in a fight that was close. I mean, he won a unanimous 29-28 decision. He did look good. He got taken down a couple times. And then his last time out, total mismatch when he fought Peter Barrett and he blew him out of the water. So Youssef Zalal, we've seen him good fight against Lingo, closer fight against Griffin, really good performance in his last time out against Peter Barrett, taking on the unknown commodity in 23-year-old Ilia Topuria, 24-year-old Zalal. I like this fight because it's somewhat of a clash of styles. You look at Youssef Zalal when he fights, he can fight almost in an ambidextrous type of motion. He can fight good on the right side, good on the left side. That's an oversimplification, but you know what I'm talking about. The kid can throw kicks to the leg, kicks to the body, kicks to the head. He can throw wild techniques. His wrestling defense has been quite good. We haven't really seen it tested, I should say, except in the Griffin fight, where he's taking on Ilia Topuria, where he got a knockout in his last fight, but who would have ever thought that was going to happen? You would have much sooner sided with a submission prop than won by knockout. But he looked amazing in that one. I'm excited about this fight, Matt. I got to can that excitement. It's your turn. Here we go. What do you think?
So I'm as excited for this fight as I am for any other, except for the main event, just because I think that's such good matchmaking. Zalal versus Topuria is going to be interesting, because like you had said, it's a clash of styles, but both guys kind of do everything. Because we saw from Topuria, his striking has continued to evolve. You can tell he's one of those guys who came into MMA very much a grappler, but as he's been in the MMA world, very much improved his striking throughout. Youssef Zalal, very interesting case, because there's nothing he can't do, but there's nothing he's so overwhelmingly good at that I think he's just going to blow Topuria out of the water. For as long as this fight's on the feet, I'm going to side with Zalal. I think he has the cleaner striking. I think he's got the better defensive movement as well on the feet, but it's not like Topuria is this Damian Maia type character where he's only out there to grapple. He has good striking. He has good kicks too. Not afraid to mix it up. Zalal's wrestling, I think, is going to be a bit of a problem for Topuria, and that's the one area of this fight where I would kind of give Zalal the edge. Not that Topuria is a bad wrestler by any means, but we've seen that Zalal, not only does he have good hips for defending takedowns, if you are able to take him down, his scrambles are phenomenal, and say what you will about Jordan Griffin and his run in the UFC, but we know what his grappling is like, and the fact that a lot of that fight was Griffin going for the takedowns, Zalal just kind of defending it and really making him pay for it on the entries and the exits. And I think that's going to be a really important thing to watch throughout this fight, because if, especially the first round, if Topuria is going for the takedowns and he is able to get some, he might not be able to get others, but if he's not really wearing out his gas tank a crazy amount, and if he isn't eating a lot of damage, he can kind of do that for all 3 rounds. Just rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Zalal's got to stay on his bike, can't let himself get backed up against the cage. We saw that in the Yorgan and Castro fight this past weekend, where he just kept on like rushing forward and holding Buddy against the cage. And I don't think we're going to see that in this fight. I must say this is going to be a much more exciting fight than last weekend's co-main event. But it's just something that he's going to have to do, because I do think Topuria is going to be going to chain wrestle a lot in this fight to try to Not that he doesn't respect the ground game or the jiu-jitsu of Youssef Zalal. I just think Ilia Topuria knows where his strengths lie, and for him to win this fight, he is going to really have to mix it up and make this an MMA fight. Because if this is just a fight on the outside, not that Topuria's striking is not good, but Zalal has quite a bit of pop behind his shots. I think the calf kicks are going to be a problem for Topuria as well. If Youssef Zalal is able to really start attacking that front leg, really both legs too, because Topuria can switch stances. If he can really invest in those leg kicks early on, I think you're going to take away some of the explosiveness of Topuria, and a lot of that will take away from his takedown and his wrestling game. So if Zalal can just fight a really smart fight, I think he should be able to have the game plan to win it.
And I mean, this is such an interesting fight because it really is a clash of styles, and you like to see those. Out of the Tapology votes, 590 of them, 84% going Zalal, 77% predicting a win by decision. This is where it gets interesting. We look at the odds, and Youssef Zalal opened a big favorite, and here's why. It's because he was originally supposed to face Sungwoo Choi. Choi's out. In steps Ilia Topuria. And we talked about it earlier on in this card. We've had some short notice replacements, some different fights falling in and out. The Tom Breese fight, he's supposed to be taking on Roman Kopylov. Then you have Canada's KB Bhullar popping in. And we've seen it more and more on these cards where it's short notice fights or short notice replacements. So in this one, you go from Sungwoo Choi, really exciting style. Maybe he hasn't brought it together totally in the UFC, but that would have been a very different fight than this fight with Topuria. And I think that lends credence to a possible Topuria win. So Youssef Zalal opens a -270 favorite. He's now a -186. If you look over across the cage at Ilia Topuria, open a +190. He's now at a +155 or thereabouts. I really do like the upside out of both of these guys. I think they have a lot of time to, grow in the division. 45's not going anywhere. This isn't 2004, so it's not like we're going to go to the dark ages and we're going to lose the lower weight classes. This is the most exciting weight class of them. And I mean, you could say that for a lot of them, but I think this is definitely one of them. And
as Craig speaks in riddles.
You have a great champion in Alexander Volkanovski. Again, upside's high on both guys. I really do like the underdog in his UFC debut here in Ilia Topuria. I like the top position. I like the submission threats. I like him, even if he was to somehow land on bottom, I think he has a good opportunity there as well. And he's one of those guys, and we don't see it very often, but when we do, we really get excited when you see a guy that his submission threats and his wrestling, it's so good that he can kind of just wing it on the feet. Now, I would worry about that, especially with a guy like Youssef Zalal. He can definitely make you pay. He's so dangerous from, again, either side. But I really do like Ilia Topuria in this one. I think he's able to get in close and really bring it down to the mat quickly. This is a fight that we're going to talk about maybe in every single fight. But similar to the Aljamain Sterling fight with Cory Sandhagen, then I think Ilia Topuria in this one has a really good opportunity. And for that reason, this is one of the more coin flip type of fights on here. I like the underdog make his UFC debut on short notice. I think it's tough to get ready for a guy like Topuria to begin with. You got to spend months getting your wrestling and your jiu-jitsu ready. Now, Youssef Zalal is coming from a great camp to do so, Matt, I'll let you mention that. But Ilia Topuria has more than a good shot at getting a win here.
So it's not often Craig makes my case as he's trying to defend another fighter, but I think what you said about the fact that Ilia Topuria, he is going to have to open up his striking to get the takedowns. I don't think he can go out there and just double leg Youssef Zalal.
We've seen him do that before.
We have, but we've never seen him do that against a guy the caliber of Zalal. I know Zalal's beaten fighters of Ilia Topuria's caliber.
Yep.
I've never seen Topuria beat anyone on Zalal's caliber. And say what you will about some of Zalal's wins, but what he's shown in them is he's a very well-rounded mixed martial artist. There's not a lot of weaknesses to his game. And I do think that every time Topuria goes for a takedown, it's going to drain his gas tank a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And as the fight goes on, Zalal is the heavier-handed of these two. He's got the better cardio out of the two.
Coming out of Factory X, I mean, you saw Alexander Hernandez cornering different guys last weekend and even the weekend before that. And, I mean, the list goes on and on about the good fighters coming out of there.
Exactly. And really a roster known for their well-roundedness. I think Zalal has a great group of guys to work with. I think this is a pretty good matchup for him, and I do think he's going to be able to get the win. I don't think he's going to blow the doors off Topuria by any means, and I do think Topuria is going to be around for a while, but you're dealing with a really big guy at 145 versus one of the smaller featherweights out there, and something that's going to come down to the wrestling. So I'm going to pick the bigger and the stronger Yousef Zalal.
Matt, I remember back at Cage Warriors 94, just seeing the fight between Topuria and Bhullar, and that's a stack card. Go back and watch that one if you want to, but I was really excited about this guy, especially the way that he got that win. 2 more wins outside of the organization, and boom, you're in the UFC. So it should be a great fight. We'll disagree on the pick, but it should be a great fight. Matt, you're going with Youssef Zalal. I'm going to go with Ilia Topuria, and really looking forward to this card. We've got a great main event between 2 really tough outs. Cory Sandhagen taking on Marlon and Moraes. You're going to want to keep locked in with Fight Night picks, Matt. And as we always say, let's get into it.